All right, we'll end the day with Parks, Arts, and Recreation. Happy to be here today. We're going to be in book 1, page 181. Is our organizational chart for our division. There's 53 FTEs, 47 of them are in Parks, Arts, and Recreation, and 6 are up at the cemetery, which is a separate enterprise.
What page? I'm sorry.
181.
Mr. Speedy.
Keep us on time and on budget.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so we basically have 8 divisions, and they're laid out there in the org chart, and the budget kind of matches those divisions. That's how we keep track of it internally. I make sure each program area controls their own budget and provide oversight to it. There's no new positions in this budget. We'll go over to page 183. Kind of our mission is really clear what we do. We try to provide a balance between maintaining valuable natural spaces and open spaces and active parks, and providing programs to fill those open parks and facilities that we own throughout the community. Obviously, we're a full-service department compared to some cities that contract out various services. We're a very full service and have a lot of programs that are successful that in this industry. Sometimes your success costs money, and sometimes your success raises revenue. So it depends what program area we're talking about and how we manage those. So a few of the accomplishments over the last year, some of the goals that we're seeking in our arts and events division, still in 183. We've really worked hard on increasing our sponsorships because our community events have really grown over the last 2-4 years. And so bringing on both media sponsors and corporate sponsors has been able to us to increase our capacity of those events without increasing a cost to the city. So we continue to seek new sponsors. They're super aggressive with that, and have created a package now where a lot of our larger events, Kids Day, 4th of July, Pet Blues, are in one big package, so we can get one big sponsor to pay for more things. That team's super aggressive and really good. Obviously working on plans on page 184 related to the Auburn Amphitheater. That lease ends in about 3 years. We're going to be coming to the council with kind of a couple of opportunities that we're pursuing now. And we're starting to look at funds available through various sites for replacement of both the theater. A lot of these are the same funds as it relates to the Arts and Culture Center. So those are major goals in the 19 and 20 is both a plan and a renovation.
Daryl, I have a question. Do you guys ever use the service clubs to do the outdoor movies?
In what way?
In funding for the movies? Because I know it costs us to do those movies.
No, we haven't. Our sponsors on those have been a couple of the local businesses, and obviously they're paid for out of the general fund. We haven't used Service Club on those as far as name recognition. We do at our other community events. Obviously they're at our festivals, but we haven't used them on the 4 movie nights.
I saw that in a newsletter for another place, and they use service clubs to do the donations for those movies.
The one up at Lee Hill Park is sponsored by King County Parks. They use it as a kind of a marketing program for their programs, the regional parks. But the other 2 or 3, like at Sunset and Let's Go, we don't involve the service clubs. We would be happy to, but it's not one that we've used. Go down to golf course division. It's been a super successful year this year. We continue to increase focus on our course drainage. Obviously the shoulder months are important. March and October is when you kind of make or break money. So we're continuing to focus on that. The men's club is up to over 600 members. The couples club and the women's club are both probably carried combined maybe 200 to 250 between the two. So those are our regular golfers that you get back over and over. So that's really been the lifeblood of our course. And many of you are out there for various events and activities. We have a great new superintendent out there, and it's going really well. So as far as municipal courses, I think it's a pretty fine run machine. And last year we had some poor weather early in the year, then a beautiful summer. This year we really had a good run of weather. This July got a little hot, but we're trending about 7,500 or 75,000 ahead of last year, which was a bit of a flat year, even a little bit down. People remember the nice summer, but don't remember that it was flooded out there for 2 or 3 weeks in the spring. And so that's just kind of how our brains work. So yeah, it's going really well. Great crew out there, Jeremy and Chris in the pro shop. The senior center really have increased programming there, mostly for a few human social service. The CMAR with the Latino program that's out there is growing. We were with council last week on a grant to expand those services as well. Full service active senior center, another program that as you get more successful, sometimes it actually costs you more money. It's not your traditional business model of a business. It's obviously a service. In the fitness classes at our new building, the seniors are coming over as non-users because you can turn that on your insurance plan. So seniors are actually the largest users of our community center when it comes to fitness classes because it's paid for through their insurance companies. Recreation division continues to grow. That growth was mainly in the teen center, the rec center that we opened a year and a half ago now. And that's another one where the more success you have when you're having 70 to 90 kids every day after school and 300 to 400 on your late nights, there's a cost. They're only paying $1. So there's a cost, but it keeps the kids off the street. We've balanced that with a bit of a decrease in some of our other programs that just weren't generating revenue to make it worthwhile. So some of our recreation classes are down, and that money that we were spending on those has gone over to our teen and youth programs. We continue to work with the school district on those. White River Museum and Mary Olson Farm. The project right now is we just received a grant for renovation of that little garage that they store some archives in at Les Gove at the White River Museum, and we'll be going out to bid this fall on turning that into a classroom space and a little patio out in front of it. Those programs continue to do well. Obviously, Patricia's retiring at the end of October, so we're just starting the recruitment of that, replacing that position. Patricia Cosgrove is retiring.
She's not scheduled to or budgeted to retire for 2 more years.
Well, you go talk to her.
She can't.
It's a savings of $10,000 a year there, Shelley.
She's not scheduled.
I know. Actually, I'd made a note of that to discuss with you because it showed up 2 years from now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's when originally the life changes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So performance measures are on page 188 and 189. Continue gradual growth. Yeah.
Sorry, go back to 184. Your major goals for 19 and 20. Can you talk a little bit about the golf course nursery and how that will work? The development of the turf?
Yeah, so what we've done is created our own sod farm out there where there's an area both on the little practice, what some people think would be a future driving range, and also at the base of the hill at number 16 where we're growing our own sod so that when we do hole replacements or collars around the green replacements, we don't have to purchase that. And what we have found by growing our own, you match you're getting the same grass instead of there's a company in Abbotsford where we get a lot of our turf from and another one in North Bend. So we're actually creating our own turf farm to repair our own blight or when we do hole expansions.
What kind of cost savings will that generate?
Well, our next hole expansion is probably in about 3 years if we do another one, and it'd probably save maybe 12 to 15,000 for a green. Performance measures, those are just kind of, we do it on both revenues and participation. Steady growth. Steady's going to win the race in what we're doing. And I thought when the economy was bad, our numbers would go down, but people see us as a low-cost service. And now when the economy's better, I thought maybe our numbers would dictate. Maybe we seem to crawl up at the same 2 to 5% every year, no matter what the economy is, because we're a good game in town that most of our families in Auburn can afford. So not really a lot of change in the performance measures. Page 190, our department budget. You can see the FTEs there stay at 47, continue through 2020. We have no new increases in expenditure that aren't related to, just your typical, as Shelley mentioned, the salaries and benefits are the shared costs. Our lines that you're going to see here in the rest of the book are all consistent with what they were in previous years. So it's not too exciting that way. On page 206 is the only real change in the budget. What we have done to be a little more transparent in our own department is added a Shelley would have the proper word for this. We call it a program area. But it's a cost center. That's the word. So we have a new cost center. It's on 206. It's actually page 210. We added a cost center, but that was really just moving money internally. The new cost center is called Park Facility Rentals. When we opened the new community center, we really are into the rental business now. And so we've created a cost center that's just for revenues and expenses related to rentals of our park facilities. One of our staff basically manages the rentals, whether it's at the senior center or in our new building or at the vets building or the Let's Go building. So any cost of revenue that goes into rentals is accounted for through finance, and any of the expenses are all going to be out of here. So when you see a new line such as $95,000 for facility attendance, those dollars used to be either in the senior center budget or maybe they were in the recreation budget, but those aren't new dollars. Those all came from somewhere else in here. So it's no new money, it's just a better way for us to account for how much we're making on our rental programs. There's really, I don't think there's a reason to go through the detail unless you guys have a question on one of them, because it's kind of sliding 2,000 from professional services over to rentals or whatever. There's no new programs or major changes other than the addition of this cost center.
Councilmember Palazzo?
So where does the theater fall in all this?
Yeah, at the beginning, number
213?
cultural arts. So let's, first section of cultural arts is community events. So this is all of Julie Kruger's budget. And then there's one that says, I'm going to find it here. One says theater on the top.
211?
211. So, I don't know if you have questions related to it.
Yeah, how are we doing revenues versus expenditures?
I don't have those exactly. Our revenues continue to increase, but obviously the lease cost is high and the cost of operation is relatively high in that old building. But from a success rate as far as participation, community use is extremely good. I'd say probably netting out of a negative 400,000. Maybe, I don't know. I'd hate to guess the number. I could come back to you with the number.
Well, I was just curious. I didn't know if Shelley would have that.
I don't
have
have
it
that.
I
We have to
think
go
it's
in.
important. I think it's important.
Our things like our summer teen camp and others, I mean, they sell out right away and then the house is full for 2 weekends, so there's that benefit. But when you take in the total cost of that operation, it's obviously a cost to the community similar to a senior center or a teen center. It's an arts center, or, you know, there's a cost to it. But I think that's where we have to go in the next 3 years, is figure out how much is the city into that and where are we going to go.
One other question there. I was driving by that street the other day and I noticed that the windows are all blank. There was no advertising or anything, just blank. It almost looked like the theater was closed.
I can check on that. Yeah, normally, you know.
Yeah, there's
we don't
nothing.
take those.
The windows are blank.
That's okay. Yeah, I can make a note of it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Councilmember West?
Thank you. The theater is one of my hot buttons, and every time I see an article or a letter to the editor about, you know, how much money we're paying for that, I think that we need, as a team, to reiterate the number of people that participate, not only those that participate in the performances, but those that attend. And if you take that number, which is huge, and divide it in, it's really cheaper than a lot of other projects that we have. And so I appreciate also this creates a forum that the schools cannot provide, and it does something in the summertime. I mean, there's nothing to cover for it. It's just great.
Yeah.
Councilmember Brown?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Councilmember Wales on this. I think one thing we need to recognize and keep in mind is the economic impact for our downtown core, where we have performances, on the weekends, and people just either before pre-funking or post-funking at our downtown restaurants and places like that. gets pretty crowded in some of those right afterwards, from my experience. I've been told that the bars get full afterwards.
Councilmember DeCoursey.
When does the lease expire on that building?
3 more years.
3 weeks. So we'll need to fairly quickly begin discussions on what we talked about in the past, on
Yeah,
status. So,
we're on board.
okay.
Any other questions? We can go over to what's what you call the big book. Recreational Trails tab on page 441. This is a really small amount of money that annually moves it's through gas tax that moves into special revenue fund, and it can only be used for trail purposes, so we continue to build up that small amount of money. There's about 65,000 in the account right now. When we have a trail project, maybe a Reddington Levee, or there's talk of some other trails connecting game farm to game farm wilderness or whatever, we'll be utilizing these funds, but there's no project scheduled to be used out of that recreational trails dollars. And it's been sitting there for, it kind of goes down and back up. It's money every year. What is it, 7,000 a year?
That's not a lot.
Not a lot. Municipal Parks Fund, that's what we fund construction projects out of. 445. Mentioned earlier the 104th Avenue project, the Green River Park, and our grant applications is what we're calling it. So there's 2 grants in for that at $1 million, which would be great, but it's super competitive. There were 96 projects from around the state there this week, but I love this project. And then below that, we're doing a synthetic infield out at Brannan Park. That should be done this year. One that's in here is the Watts property. That's the property that's above the Mary Olson farm. We've worked with that owner. Right now, he's not real willing to divest. His property's been for sale, and we're trying to talk him into at least selling us at a discount the ravine area right above the farm. There's some great salmon habitat in there, as well as some really good Native American history lessons that we're told on that site. So we would love to get a few more acres. It's very inexpensive because it's a steep slope, but right now he's more interested in selling his property as more of an estate of 40 acres or whatever it is than us getting some of those acres. So we're going to continue to work with that family and hopefully extend the park property. We have a matching funds through King County Conservation Futures. Then we could probably use park impact fees for our portion. So that's the property. It's basically just above the stream where our property line ends, kind of behind where the animals are there. We already talked about
Councilmember Troutman.
And Darrell, do we use that property for Mary Olson's for more history, or what are we going to be using
we would
that
like
property
to.
for?
Right now, when we do like classes out there, we kind of take them behind where the donkeys and chickens are, and our property ends about another 100 feet up. But if you continue a trail that's not on our property, which we would like to own or at least get an easement over, there's another shelf in the land up there where basically as far as the fish can get. And we'd love to own up to that spot because there's great stories to be told, and we'd be assured that we'd maintain the creek corridor in the level that we want, whereas now we don't have rights to go on their private property.
So are we looking to buy the whole 40 acres or just portions of it?
No, none of the top portion, which is flat and buildable, only ravine and hillside. We started wanting to buy more, but it's clear that he wants to keep a lot of acres, which is fair. And so we want to do it for education purposes, and also because we can take better care of the stream than somebody who lives on the hill when the stream is in the valley. So it makes sense for environmental reasons.
Just not a lot of maintenance costs, I know.
No,
in
it
the
wouldn't
past.
increase maintenance at all because it's native land and there'd be a trail. Yeah.
Councilmember Pelosi.
It would, any acreage above there going up the creek would enhance our grant opportunities big time.
Yeah. It's a valuable piece of land from a stewardship perspective, not valuable as a property owner perspective. So I think something will happen in the next year. And we have money on the books should it happen. If it doesn't, the money just stays on the books. Yeah. Parking lot improvements in this one. When we skip back to, unless people have questions on any of the capital projects, they're all relatively small this year. We do have a larger one out at Game Farm Park. We really have to find the matching funds, which is difficult on 2 synthetic fields. They've been out there about 10-ish years now, and their shelf life is that. And so once we make about $80,000 a year on revenue on those fields, plus our own programs. And so if they get to they call a CMAQ rating where their surfacing doesn't get covered by your insurance, we have to shut them down. So we have $500,000 or $600,000 of impact fees in here because we're going to be adding lines for lacrosse and field hockey and some other sports to increase our capacity. But so far we've not been able to find grants to match because it's considered maintenance, not increased capacity. So when you go to King County Youth Sports or the state, they're not interested in taking care of your local soccer fields because everybody would be asking for that money. So we're still working on a solution for that. Hopefully we'll have it done in the second year of this budget cycle.
Councilmember Troutman.
So back on 445, you were talking about that mini soccer field. Are we going to be doing that to all the parks, adding one of those little soccer fields?
They've been successful in the grant process, and they've been super successful in the popularity process. And so, we've added our second one this year at Brandon. We don't have one scheduled in this biennium, but we're always thinking about what site can do it. It really has to be a site with good parking and a restroom, because kids stay a long time. So people mention, Cedar Lanes Park would be a good neighborhood, but really without a restroom, I don't know if it would. I almost need to be more of a community park.
What's the cost to have
They're
one?
about $150,000, and we've been getting $75,000 out of King County for the last 2.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll go back to the cemetery fund on 471. Obviously, one of the finest, if not the finest, municipal cemeteries in the state. We got a great crew up there of Craig and 4 maintenance workers. It's run as a complete enterprise. After a little downturn in the economy, I have learned in my business that this one does actually move by the economy. Not so much in need, but in pre-need. People, when you're short on the budget, aren't thinking about death. They're thinking about paying the bills. And so now we're doing super well in lot sales. We've opened up a couple new areas. There's a couple of projects in there that just have to be have attention to them. We have money in there to do an overlay and a seal coat on a lot of the roads that go through the park. I don't think they've ever been taken care of in 70, 80 years. And they're starting to fail. And so we had an assessment done as to which ones need to be rebuilt and what method. And so there's money the next 2 years to work on that. We're going to be doing a preliminary plan on a new crypt mausoleum. The one that we have is full, and we're starting to get requests for that. So we're going to get the plan done, start making some pre-sales, and then in the next budget cycle, we'll be constructing a new mausoleum up there. And it'll be at the site of the existing one down below. If you go to page 473 on the working capital budget, in the top half of it, where it says ending working capital, at the end of 2017, there's a little over $500,000 in there, and then that gets obviously carried over as an enterprise. In 2018, we're very conservative this year with our revenues, and last year we ended up at 1.3 million. We're going to actually end up probably a little above 1.3 million. We're already 100,000 ahead of last year at same pace. So there's going to be increased ending working capital. Shelley mentions the 100,000 that we carried over in here every year as a placeholder in case we have a down year. That's a great thing to do. This isn't going to be one of those years, and we're going to be upwards of $750,000 in working capital by the end of this year. That's how we're able to fund some of these projects, plus the endowed care without having to dip into taking out a loan or going into other methods. So really good operation. City of Issaquah happens to be meeting us next week to look at their cemetery and how they can turn it into something like ours. So that's nice to see that we had a great turnaround here with some really good decision making along the way. And that's the end of what we do.
Councilmember Pelosi.
Yeah, can you mention the West Hill Park?
Yeah, so there's money in this, 100,000, I want to say, in this year's project, and we've got a master plan done, and Jamie's going to kind of be working with community groups and others to get that work accomplished, hopefully by the end of this year. Then we're going to need to do some larger projects up there related. It's a fine line between how formal you want to make that property, but we want to get it to the point that there's signage, a small amount of parking, and a great loop trail and some sitting areas around it.
That way
So it's in this year's budget.
Yeah, we can do the dedication formally for
Yeah.
former Mayor Lewis.
Any other questions?
Good job.
Yeah, mic drop, walk off the stage. All right. That's the end of today's presentations, yes.